folks. I'm Tom Vassell.
Z Garcia, how are you, everybody?
Sam Haley. Got it.
All right. Well, today we are talking about city building games, which is a genre that I thought was going to be kind of narrow until I looked it up, and there's actually quite a few out there.
Like, clicked on it on BGG.
7 pages from a advanced search of city building games. 7 pages.
Was there more than you thought?
Yes,
I was
there
really
were.
surprised.
Actually, I was very surprised at how broad the definition was.
I got some funky cities on my list.
Okay. I was pretty strict with mine that you're actually somehow building a city in mine, but I thought I better be good for Sam and Z because I think they might. Like, for example, I know you guys can put on your list, but on the list was Puerto Rico.
Correct.
And like, okay, you're technically building a
the
city
of Puerto Rico. It's a city, right?
Yeah, but it's about shipping the goods. the building the thing is kind of a.
Gotta change.
Might be on my list.
It's not on either of your list, you liars.
No, I was having a hard time at first. Just the first thing I do is I'll look at my shelves and go through that. But once I went to Board Game Geek and found the mechanism and clicked on it, then it's like, oh, all of these games are considered. And still, at that point, then I made sure that my list, the main thing I was going for with my list is not necessarily, I'm not going with I like this game strictly better than this game, but it has to be a game I like, but how good is the city building feel in the game? Do I feel like I'm building something?
Well, you kind of let the cat out of the bag because you said we could take as broad, and so I said, okay.
Number 10, chess. You are building the Queen's Castle, which is in a city.
So my list is definitely I like this game better than this game, better than this game, so forth and so on. So that they all fall within the city building category on Board Game Geek.
I deliberately left a couple off my list if I didn't think it was. There's some games that feel like you're building a city, but it's not a city; it's something else. Like maybe Zooloretta, you're building a zoo or something like that. Like, nah, that doesn't count.
I have a couple of questions.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Lords of Waterdeep.
It's a little late for questions.
That was on the list.
Well,
Lords of
technically,
Waterdeep?
together you're building the city and adding buildings to the city.
No. Above and below.
Above and below, you're building like your own little city in front of you with those cards.
I haven't played, but I think you're building a city, right?
Building a village. It's not a city.
It's a city to those people, Sam.
Okay.
Be careful the way you phrase that.
Roll through the ages. It's an entire civilization.
It's an urban.
It's an entire civilization. It's not just a city. I don't know. Some of the things that were on that list were...
Stop tearing my list apart.
I'm just saying. Those are the ones that I wrote down on my piece of paper because I was like,
To mock
okay,
them.
I like the game, but I don't think it's city building. And then those were the first ones that left.
All right. I think we will not actually have a ton of crossover.
This is going to be 2. I'm calling there's 2 games.
I bet you there's at least one game that will be on all 3 people's list, but we'll see. Here we go.
Cool.
Number 10.
All right, my number 10 is actually on my number 10 because it just made the cut. This is one of the games where I was like, I don't know. Does not feel like city building to me, but Le Havre is my number 10. I really enjoyed this game, and this is also the heaviest game on my list as far as gameplay is concerned. As a matter of fact, there's a pretty sharp as far as...
Next one, Candyland.
So I really do enjoy Le Havre. You know, you're building you're using buildings to build other buildings, and you're building a city around this harbor, and you're using all these different resources. I enjoy the game a lot. I barely just think it's a city building game. I think it's more of a resource management type game. It doesn't feel like city building at all. But hey, it's in the category, so it's my number 10, Le Havre.
I considered it, but didn't because I was like,
Exactly.
I like the game a lot, but I was like, city building? Well.
Right.
My number 10 is an older game. It was reprinted maybe 5 or 6 years ago. That's La Chita. This is from Rio Grande Games, and this one is, well, you're building a city. That's the whole game. It's called The City.
Is it Cheetah?
I believe it's La Chita.
It is?
I think so.
Wow.
It's not Spanish. I don't know.
Never pronounced it that way. I thought it was La Cita.
I will accept either of those pronunciations.
You have to do this though.
La Cita.
La Chita.
Okay.
La Cita.
Anyhow, in this game, you're building your cities around the board.
I think Tom just found a list of games that have the word city in the title. The city? Yes.
Now look, I really like this game because you're building these different cities and you're adding different sections to them, and you're never sure what the people want. Maybe they want culture, maybe they want, you know, cleanliness, and there's different things that are going to show up, and you're trying to build the different cities according to that. It has some little cool pieces. You played this a long time ago, and it maybe is a slight fiddlier than I would like, which is why it's number 10, but it's still a pretty solid game. La Chita.
What's it called?
Shut up.
All right. My number 10 is a Western game called Deadwood, in which you are building a city. It's called Deadwood. And it's a worker placement game in which you are building the different locations you can send your workers to. I really like it because it's a worker placement with confrontation. You can deploy your cowboy, I guess they are.
That's what they are.
Deploy your cowboy to where somebody else is already occupying a building, and you have a shootout. You might, you know, knock the other guy out or scare him away or kill them. It's a solid worker placement game. Really has flown under the radar. It's from FFG. It came out. But it's a solid game. It's sort of a smaller footprint worker placement game. That is Deadwood, my number 10.
All right.
Number 9.
My number 9 is a game I don't believe Sam has played, but I know I played it with Z, and that is Big City. Yes, it has city in the title.
All day.
But Big City is...
Carson City.
That's next. Hold on.
Yeah.
Shh. It's coming up. You know it's on there, don't you?
Anyway, Big City is a game in which it's more of a tile laying game than anything else. Actually, no, you haven't played Big City, I think. Or maybe you have.
I did.
Did.
No. Yes.
You're thinking of, actually...
No, I'm thinking of a different...
You're thinking of a different game, which is coming on my list later. Anyhow, Big City is a tile-laying game, which you're going to place down these tiles, and the way you place them will score you points, and the city is growing. There's like a little line of trolley cars going through the city. This is a game that I really was excited about. I think it's one of the Gold Seaber games in those big boxes. It was supposed to be reprinted by Valley Games, who maybe is gone. So I don't know who has the rights to this game. The designer passed away a few years ago. But it was pretty solid. And it also came with these big chunky city pieces. Instead of just putting down tiles, you're putting down big chunky pieces. A little bit more abstract than many of the games, but you still got points. Like if you put a residential next to a park, you got more points than if you put the park next to an industrial thing. You know, your typical city building things. So my number 9, Big City.
Cool. Well, your list seems to be the one so far with the out-of-print games. Which,
That's true. That's true.
Normally my shtick, I guess.
Role reversal.
It's not all of them. It's not all of them. All right.
Need a hat.
All right, my number 9 is one of the lightest games on my list by far. It's a very simple little dice game of the roll and write kind of games. This is called Doodle City.
Yeah, I knew you'd put this one on.
And Doodle City is a very simple game in which every player has their own little city board in front of them, a blank sheet. It's not really blank, but it's, you know, it's got streets and buildings and things, and then as you roll, based on dice rolling, you fill in things and check boxes off and draw roads and things like that. It's a nice little puzzly sort of exercise. I enjoy it a lot because it lets you kind of do your own thing and just hope you have a better city than everybody else. If you enjoy those kinds of games where you have your own, little board going on and you're drawing on it and stuff, then this is a good one. I like it a lot. Number 9, Doodle City.
My number 9 is a game called Dice City, where you are using these different dice that you roll, and as you roll them, the buildings that you're able to use within your city are changed by what you actually roll. So you have to, it all hinges upon the roll, what you can do during your turn, but it's pretty neat thing because what basically happened is the queen is moving the capital of her kingdom, and all of the different players are trying to build their city up the best so that the queen will choose their city to move the capital to. And I just thought it was an interesting mechanism of rolling the dice, and that determines what buildings you can use and how you can use them. So I thought Dice City was an interesting twist on the city building category. So that is my number 9, Dice City.
Yeah, that one was on my short list, actually. I really enjoyed that.
Man, I have to say that a lot of these have the word city in, so you need to get off my back. Yours had city in too.
But that's the oh no, it's not.
That's the only one of mine that has the word city in it.
Number 8.
All right, my number 8 is probably the no, it's not probably. It is the game on this list that I played the longest ago because it was one of my games that was one of my intro games to gaming, modern gaming. One of my favorites still, the game is San Juan. So it's funny that Tom was talking about Puerto Rico earlier because I agree with him. Puerto Rico does not feel like a city building game, but San Juan to me does feel like a city building game. You know, you are putting out the buildings in town. You are using those buildings to generate something, typically to build more buildings. And, you know, yeah, sometimes you ship things and get points that way. But oftentimes a good strategy is racing to 12 buildings, you know, trying to build a tableau quickly before somebody else gets off the ground. It's the game has now had a second version, which came out, what, a year ago maybe? Something like that. Very solid second printing of it with some new buildings. They introduced, they added to the game an expansion that had come out before and was kind of hard to get. And so it's a great package. I would recommend you absolutely go out and get the new San Juan version. A game I've loved for a long time, and I still do. San Juan is my number 8.
I'm cool with that. It just seems like if Puerto Rico and San Juan, if one fits, so does the other. I don't see how you'd say no to Puerto Rico and yes to San Juan.
I think they feel different.
All right, all right. I will accept that.
San Juan is actually a city, too. Bam.
Pretty sure in Puerto Rico you're building the city of San Juan.
You don't know that.
It says San Juan on the board.
That's where it is on the map, but you're actually...
Go.
All right, my number 8 has already been mentioned by somebody, so we have our first crossover.
No way!
Yes,
Deadwood.
my number 8 is Deadwood.
Yeah, baby, I knew it. I knew it. You love it.
Maybe it's on my list too.
It is not.
It is not.
If it was called Deadwood City...
Yeah. But strangely enough, that is the town that you're building is called Deadwood. And that's one of the reasons for everything that Z said. I do enjoy the worker placement mechanic, but it also has conflict. You're also building the city as you go throughout the course of the game. So there's a lot of different pistons that are firing all at the same time with this game. And that's why I enjoyed it. That's why I made it my list. For everything that Z already said, my number 8, Deadwood.
My number 8 is City Tycoon. So, yes. Now, this is the one I meant earlier. I got to mix up my head. City Tycoon, I know I played with you.
Right.
This is where you're putting out, you're building the city. But this one has a lot of almost pick up and delivery. You got to make sure you get the energy over here and the water over here so that these buildings, you get points for them. It was pretty cool. And for a while, I was like, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for in a city game. But until another game came along and blew it out of the water. That one's higher on my list. But I still think City Tycoon is a pretty solid game. For some reason, didn't really catch on at all. I don't even know if it was picked up in America.
Right.
It came over from Europe, but it was fun. It was interesting, and I like the building bigger energy plants, and then you had the energy to move around. Almost felt like a precursor to Among the Stars, slightly. But anyway, that's City Tycoon.
Number 7.
My number 7 is a fairly recent game, which I suspect will be on someone's list, quite possibly both their lists. And it's a new darling for a lot of people, a great intro-level weight game. This is New York 1901. New York 1901, you are, of course, building the city of New York. 1901 is the year. And the game is a Tetris-ish kind of game in which you are taking the different shapes of buildings in your own pool, your own colored buildings, and using cards to put them out. It's very simple. It's a fairly breezy kind of game, but you need to keep an eye on scoring opportunities. You need to keep an eye on some big bonuses for the end of the game, depending on what street you're building on. And the game just has a real good flow to it. You know, you can teach it to just about anybody. It's a Ticket to Ride sort of weight of game. And it's if you enjoy that aspect of seeing the board start empty and by the end of the game everything has grown and everything is filled in, and this game's going to give you that feeling. So my number 7, New York 1901.
I did not put that on my list. It's a good game. It's a good game. My number 7 is Murano, which is actually maybe a town more than a city, but whatever. And in Murano, you're moving these boats around this on the board, and you're slowly building all these different buildings in the middle and different little villages and cities around there, and you get points based on how you play them. And to be honest, as much as I like the game, I like that outside moving of the boats. That's what I'm there for. But the building of the city is important. Well, I guess you can win without doing that maybe, but still. That's a pretty big deal to part of the game, and I really enjoy this game. It hasn't got a lot of buzz when I think it should have, and that's Murano.
Okay, my number 7 is another tableau building card game, and it's the one that is one of my earliest memories of gaming in Korea.
SimCity 2000. There is a SimCity card game. I doubt it's on anyone's list.
No.
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Citadels. Citadels, you're building your city, and you're trying to, of course, it's a race, as you said earlier about one of the other games. What was it? San Juan, yes. You're trying to build the most, a certain number of buildings the fastest before everyone else does. It also has role selection, which I do enjoy in a lot of games. The one problem that I have with the game is that it can elongate itself, not prematurely, but commonly, regularly. It can do that. So it can go a little bit longer. It can overstay its welcome, so to speak. But I really do enjoy the game, and it's one of the earliest games of the whole designer game fad that is now running full steam that I played. So it has that staying power as well, because I still enjoy it today. And we're talking almost a decade ago we played this. So
no, not almost.
No.
It's like 15 years now.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah.
There you go. But there you have it. My number 7, Citadels.
Now, I'm not going to criticize your list in that regard, but I wonder if some people might not think that's a city building game.
That was one of those.
That's passive aggressive.
No offense.
No offense, but
Garbage list, buddy. It was on my short list. Again, I just happened to get more of a city building vibe from these.
Yeah.
But it was on the list, you know. And I don't know. I don't know what it is between that one. I guess the difference between that and like San Juan is San Juan. Once I put the building out, if it's like a tax house, I get taxes from it. And that one, if it's like a dungeon, it just sits there.
Well, some of the purple buildings have special abilities.
Yeah, there's a couple, right? There's a couple.
Basically, what he means is the difference is San Juan
no
is short.
offense, but
So therefore,
San Juan is short. That's why.
Number 6.
in my number 6, you are building multiple cities all around the world, and you are actually physically building them. I didn't even think about this until I looked at it. I was like, duh, and that's Manhattan. You are building skyscrapers in cities. I don't know how to explain it other than that. And this is one of those games that I'm kind of surprised is out of print. But I think with the Vassal's Law, I think we'll see it back in print eventually. Somebody will bring it back, I would imagine, because it's a pretty solid game. Pretty simple, Spiel des Jahres winner, where you're putting out the buildings and you're growing skyscrapers, trying to have the most skyscrapers in the city, have the tallest one on the board, getting points just for having them, period. Very easy, simple game. And when people come around, they're like, ooh, what are you doing? We're building a city. We built this city. That's Manhattan, which does not have the word city in it.
it did originally.
It did not.
You don't know.
All right, what do you got?
My number 6 is a game that I would imagine is going to be on at least Z's list. I would imagine, although it may not have hit as strong of a city building theme as he would have liked. But that is Imperial Settlers. And again, this was one of the ones where I questioned, is that really a city building game? And I guess you could kind of do that, but you're really building your civilization, which I guess would incorporate a good number of cities.
No, I definitely have your back on this one. That one, you are essentially building a city.
Yeah, that's true, but it represents your civilization. But I don't know.
Yeah, but there's buildings, essentially.
No, don't fight for my I got it. I put it on my list.
Who made the thing? It's like I made it.
No, it's like, no, listen. It's okay to put it on. He's convincing you.
No, I really do enjoy the game. There's one little thing where you can only attack half the person's kingdom, and
It really bugs you, right?
that just bugs me.
I want to kill everything.
51st
it's-
state, baby. That's
It's
what
not that. It's not that I want to destroy everything. It's just that if I can attack that, why can't I attack that?
The guards and there's a fence or something.
There's a fence. Yeah, that's what it boils down to. There's a fence. a white picket fence apparently, and then I just can't cross over it. And I get this picture of it like a big barbarian standing on the one side of a.
Trying to like open the lock and the white picket fence. I'll go home then. Massive act.
Exactly, man. It just doesn't make sense to me, but I still enjoy everything about the game, other than that one little fiddly rule. But that is my number. What is this? 6?
6.
6 is Imperial Settlers.
Well, it's not on my list. I'll tell you now. It was on my
Really?
short list. But again, it's just something about it. You know, it just didn't give me that city building vibe.
I got you.
I don't know.
Garbage.
All right. My number 6 is one that technically you're building a city. Whatever. Anyway, number 6 is Among the Stars for me. And Among the Stars, I guess you're technically building a space station. Each player is.
Which is
a city in space.
Which is a city in space-ish, right? And it gives.
I feel like that was a
vibe
preemptive
of-
argument, but I specifically didn't put it on my list because it was not a city.
Okay.
That's
fair
exactly what I thought when I was going through this list. It's a city orbiting in space somewhere.
Right.
It's a city building game.
Right.
Okay, I'll
saying
accept
it's
that.
on my list,
I'm just saying that's why I didn't put it on my list.
So, anyway, I put it on the list because it felt like a city building game to me. It felt like it mattered where I put the tiles, like I was constructing this whole structure. You've got your launch bay over here, and this is where the engines are to produce energy, and this is where the cafeteria is, and, it just feels good. It
that
feels
game
like-
could be totally rethemed.
Oh, yeah,
with a
that's
city
true.
building
That's true.
mechanism.
But the way it's designed, the way it operates, the different alien races that each player is, all of those things add to make a really cool drafting game that just works for me. When this came out, I remember everybody was still kind of really on the Seven Wonders kick, and again, people still are. It's an amazing game, but I remember playing this and going, "Wow, this is like a Seven Wonders 2.1 kind of, or 1.1, where you have a very similar concept, but spacing of card placement matters, and having your own personality, your own alien race was so cool." So I knew it was going to be on my list. Number 6, Among the Stars.
Number 5.
My number 5 is another game. Again, this whole category was riddled with games that I was like, really? I never considered that city building, but yeah, I guess so. Sure.
Right.
I like the game enough. I'll put it in there. And it's Carcassonne. You are definitely building cities in that game. It's not the only thing you're doing, but you're definitely building cities in there. You're trying to get the biggest cities so you can score the most points. Not necessarily the biggest cities, but a whole bunch of big cities. So yeah, I guess it's cool. I'm in there. Carcassonne. City building game.
I love how this is almost like talking to himself out of it. So yeah, I guess. I mean, I put it on the list, and then I was gonna scratch it off, but my pen ran out. So Carcassonne. All right, my number 5 is an old standby as well. This is Alhambra, and it's you're building Alhambra. That's a city.
This is my number 11, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. This is one I've used time and time again to teach new folks how to play these modern games of ours, and it just works really well because it has a lot of parallels to more commonly known gaming, things like money management, grabbing money, spending money, competing with other people for
Different color
amounts.
monies, of course. Just like real life.
Just like real life, yes, here in Europe. And it's just, you place out the tiles. There's no rotation of the tiles or anything. You put them exactly so you can read them right side up, but you do have to watch out for those walls you are building around your city. And it's a clean city building game, very, very straightforward, but it works well. And I think it's a great introductory game to this style of game. So my number 5, Alhambra. Thumbs up on that.
My number 5 is a city building game where you are working on one city, and that is Las Vegas, and the game is called Lords of Vegas. And that is where you're building casinos around the city, and I guess technically it's a casino building game, but you're stretching out the city of Las Vegas.
That's right.
And I just really like it. It's really fun as you take over control of other people's buildings. I especially like it with the expansion, the up expansion, where they're going up. It gives a three-dimensional look to it. It's another one of those games that kind of made some buzz when it came out, and now is barely known.
It kind of went away. It's not a very attractive game, for one thing.
I like the dice, though. When you look at it, you're like, oh, there's dice everywhere.
It's a pretty game. That cover, you look at the cover and you go,
Oh, it's true. The cover, but it's Mayfair. What do you expect? So anyway, that's Lords of Vegas.
Number 4.
My number 4 is another crossover that has already been mentioned once by Z over
Yeah,
there.
baby.
That is New York 1901. This is one of the games that I immediately thought of when we started talking about this list, because you are literally building up the skyline of New York in the year 1901. So for everything that he said, I love the spatial aspect of it. I love how you can combo things with depending on what city you're on, scoring those kind of points and that type of stuff. It is a very simple game, family level, very easy to teach, very easy to understand, and very fun to play. So my number 0 is New York 1901.
Guess I'm the odd man out on that one, but I did like it. It was in my top 20. My number 4 is Carcassonne, the city, because that makes more sense than Carcassonne.
what are you doing, man?
Did you forget about Carcassonne, the city?
No, I don't like
And he
that
was
game
going to
as
write
much
Carcassonne, the city, but his pen ran out.
It did. It did.
In Carcassonne, the city, it's
I don't like
Carcassonne,
that.
but you're essentially building one big city with the walls and
I
everything.
don't like that game as much as I do the other.
Really?
Yeah, no.
I like it actually better than Carcassonne. I feel like the walls and putting the guards on the towers, and it gives a little bit of aspect. Also, it's one of the coolest looking games when you finish. You're like, wow, we just built a city. It really is cool. Carcassonne, the castle, has a similar feel, although technically you're building a castle, not a city, but that one's a little bit more abstract. It's Knizia, what do you expect? But Carcassonne, the city is still my favorite Carcassonne game, although I do not actually disagree with Carcassonne. I just thought the city was very focused.
Yeah.
So,
All right, my number 4 is a game I'm always championing, it seems, and most people I've either not played it or didn't like it. I don't know. This is a dice chucker from Alea called Saint Malo.
no, this is in my top 22. I like this one. Yeah.
And in it you are, this is sort of like the grown-up version of Doodle City, if you would, where you, instead of getting a little piece of paper that has everything filled in and you just check things off, you get the blank slate and you roll many dice, not just a couple of 6-siders. And they have symbols, and you fill in, you draw in your city, you draw in walls, you draw in buildings, characters that work those buildings. But of course, everywhere you put something is somewhere you cannot put something else later on. And oh boy, does that come back to bite you, And you are defending your city from attacks every now and then. If you roll certain faces on the dice a number of times, and you are attacked. So you have to worry about building the wall, which is just a protective, measure. They don't help you, so you're wasting time building it. But you're, shoring up for later. Just a great, really cramped feeling, but very tactically rich game that I am a huge fan of. So that is my number 4, Saint Malo. Love it.
Number 3.
My number 3. Now we're starting into the games. I mean, my top 3 are like, oh, I love these city building games. I love them, love them, love them. Number 3 is a game that came out, got buzz, and was gone. Super heavy game, as in physically heavy, and that's Sunrise City.
Yes.
Sunrise City from the Clever Mojo games. This was their second game after Alien Frontiers. These big chunky tiles, you're placing them, building a city, putting them on, eventually you're putting things on top of each other. They're city planners. Has a really weird scoring system where if you score exactly on a star, then you basically get a free 10 points. It's pretty cool how the whole game fits together, and when you're done, again, it's one of those ones that looks good, but also is a really solid game behind it. This is a game that's on clearance a lot. I don't know why. I think there's a lot of people. The box, I guess, isn't very exciting looking, but pretty solid game. That's Sunrise City, and that is the last game on my list that has the word city in it.
Yeah, and you're doing that scoring where it's like a cyclical scoring. You're going up and up. It's like a track that has 10 spaces, and you drop off the top and come back on the bottom, and every time you pass 10, you score a point. But if you land on 10, you get 2 points.
Right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Usually if a game's on clears, it means it didn't sell very well.
Or they made too
Right,
many,
or whatever the reason. No, I know it didn't sell well, and I think part of it is the game is really heavy. Like, you order that game, you're paying shipping. That game
Those
is
tiles are like
that's one of the heaviest games I've had in my collection.
right,
So,
physically heavy. Yeah.
Good games sell. That's all I'm saying.
yes, usually.
Just kidding. Golly, so defensive.
I'm gonna put Carcassonne
Why
on my
so
list.
serious?
All right, my number 3. It's me. Yes.
It is.
My number 3 is a Vegas-themed game as well, but it's not the one Tom picked. This is Vegas Showdown, in which technically you're building a casino, but everybody's building a casino, so you together are all building Vegas, baby.
You
All
don't,
right, I'm calling this one out. That's
you don't give me no stuff for Carcassonne. No more.
Yeah, I get it. It's a bit of a stretch, but to me it just feels like a solid. We're all building together, and yeah, you have your own thing, but this one shoves its way onto the list based on feeling of building alone. Yes, I know technically it's not a city. You're building.
So if I put
casino,
Castles of Mad King Ludwig, you would have accepted that?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I would have been okay with that.
I'm just
You're
saying.
you're building a castle in the city. I mean, I would be okay with that. But anyway, Vegas
Just
Showdown
making sure he's consistent.
is just this is one of those games that came out from Hasbro technically, and it was Avalon Hill, but you know, Hasbro reprinted it and picked them up, and it's just a really solid game. I don't know if a lot of people still play it or played it in the first
Well, I'm
place.
hoping they give up the rights for it someday, and someone will get it and do a nice
Do a
production
gorgeous
of it.
job of it, yeah, because it's not a great production, but the game itself is so solid. You are building different rooms in your casino, and you know, you are putting out the buffets and the slots and the everything, and they have to connect specific ways. It's a great visual challenge while still making sure you manage your money, you manage your population, all those things. And that's partly why also it's on the list, because it tackles those things that most city building games tackle. Does placing next to something else matter? Yes. Do you have to manage your money? Yes. Do you have to worry about, you know, it's just all these things are in most city building games, and they are in this one. So I went ahead and stuck it on my list. My number 3, Vegas Showdown. Really like that game.
All right, my number 3 is another crossover, already been mentioned, and that is Among the Stars. Definitely a city building game.
Well, it was
Sure.
pretty obvious
Yes,
on your
it was.
list.
Definitely a city building game. You are building a city that is floating in space somewhere, but you are definitely building the city. And I just really enjoy how all the different parts of the city work together, give you different points, give you the ability to do other things. The Among the Stars Revival expansion opened up a few doors there that was pretty interesting. Also gave a viable, valid two-player version for the game as well. So, great game. I really enjoy it. My number 3, Among the Stars.
I actually put this on my list, and then I was like, and I finally crossed it off. I was like, don't give me garbage for putting a space station on my list. Had I only known!
You know.
Number 2.
My number 2 has been mentioned already by Tom and technically by Sam. This is Carcassonne the City.
Woo!
Carcassonne the City is also my favorite Carcassonne, actually, and part of it definitely is what Tom was saying. The visual appeal of the whole thing is through the roof. You are building the city, and eventually start building the walls. You have the gates to the city, and you put the guards on the towers, and it just looks great. And it's useful. It's not a gimmick, that wall. You are cutting off people's ability to build, you know? And the city is going to look interesting and drastically different from game to game. So a great Carcassonne, solid tile laying game that just works and looks great doing it. My number 2, Carcassonne the City.
Cool.
My number 2 is a game that has been mentioned not as a pick for a list, but in reference to a pick for the list. But anyway, it's number 2, Seven Wonders. And it's another tableau card building game. You're drafting your cards, you're drafting your buildings that you're including into your city. You're building up your city civilization, really. So it has a lot of it's kind of the same as Imperial Settlers in that respect. you're representative of a civilization, but you are in essence building buildings in a city. And Seven Wonders has always been one of my favorite games anyway, so I knew it was going to make my list, period. But that is my number 2, Seven Wonders.
Yeah, I think the thing is, for me, that game you mentioned now, Imperial Southers, and yeah, you're right, they both have a similar vibe. I think the issue I had with putting them on the list is a problem of scope. They have a much bigger scope.
Yeah.
You know, you're building over maybe hundreds of years. You are building, like you said, entire civilizations. There's trade caravans and this and that. So it felt bigger.
Or it's just one trade caravan from your city to another.
That's true.
There you go. He doesn't agree.
I just feel like it's not a city. It feels like much bigger than that. But
Right.
all right.
Same thing with Imperial Settlers, though.
Okay.
It's the same feel.
Well, I didn't
Yes.
actually put either on my list.
I know,
You're
but
wrong
you said
twice. He's saying you're wrong.
you actually had my back on Imperial
No, I
Settlers.
did. I bet Imperial.
Oh,
But it's-
backsies, no
but
backsies.
no, in Seven Wonders you're adding concepts, which is civilization feel. I don't know.
Yeah.
No big deal. We'll see what the people say. My number 2 is not out yet, although it should be out any day now.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Wait, no, wait, no.
Yeah, he did. He did. He did. Go ahead.
What do you think it is?
Quadropolis.
Yeah,
Yeah. See, look, honorable mention. You know why it's an honorable mention? Because it's not available yet.
it's almost out by the time it's going to be out this month or so. It's really close. No, Quadropolis, and we played it.
See this word?
I don't want to hear no garbage about
That's right. That's
Vegas
what I'm
Showdown.
talking
That
about.
game's available, baby.
That's right.
Really?
Go ahead.
Is it available?
I think so.
Okay.
There's copies out there.
You don't want to go with this available stuff here, do you?
I'm putting mine up for sale today just to validate. See,
Anyhow, no, it really is a very solid city building game, and you're building your own little city, and how you place things, how you take them from the middle. I'm really excited about this one. This is, I know you guys are real big fans of the Five Tribes and all, but this is the Days of Wonder release that has me most excited for a long time. Really excited. I love how the tiles look. Just
Well, this could
pretty
have
cool.
possibly been on my list
mine
if it
too.
had been a choice.
I did write it down.
I definitely
it's
looked
not
at it and
yet.
thought, ooh, if this was out,
It's
this
not
could be
yet a
on my
viable
list.
choice
Whatever.
because it's not available yet.
We have all played it, and we played a pretty much almost final production version of it, so close enough.
Yeah, I played.
Anyhow, my number 2, Quadropolis.
And finally, number 1.
Here we go. I'm feeling the 20. I said it every time.
Boom! I got a 1!
That's 9. Welcome back.
That's right, baby.
17. All right, before you pick who goes first, I cannot think of what your guys' top choices are.
I think I know what yours is.
I think mine's pretty obvious, but man, what
I don't
are
know about
yours?
Sam, though. I think because
Leaf in the
Sam...
wind.
Is yours a crossover?
Negative.
Oh.
I think because Sam and I are both not, like you say, city building to us, and we're both like, eh. Whereas he
loves
it. Right. So who's going first?
Suburbia.
I guess you're going first.
Go ahead.
Suburbia, yes. To me, this is the definitive city building game. It was like Suburbia, Quadropolis, and everything else. That's how much I like it. I love the expansion. The first one, the second one's okay. The first one with the... You can build anything in your city. You can have an amusement park, a military base. Every time I play this game, I just have a great time. I feel like it's Bezier Games' best game. I love how the things I build in my city affect what's in yours. I mean, we're technically all building the same city. My neighborhood affects yours. So if I build a restaurant, your restaurant might go down in value a little bit because more people are coming to mine. I just love the whole feel of this game. I actually also like Castle Mad King Ludwig, but I didn't think it was a city. That's why I didn't put it on my list. But I like Suburbia better. It's just that, man, city building, boom, in my collection. Unless some other game comes out that blows it away, that's in my collection permanently.
I wouldn't necessarily mind Suburbia so much. It just looks so ugly.
I actually like the look of it.
It's I don't know. It's a very minimalistic style, and I get that's what they were kind of going for, I guess. But it just, I don't know. It's very unattractive while you're playing it on the table. Just a bunch of colored hexes on the board, and that's, I don't know. Just don't like it.
It looks drab. I think it looks
yeah,
drab.
that's what I mean. And I enjoy it, I guess. I just wish it were nicer looking, maybe. So, I don't know. Go ahead.
What is yours a crossover?
No?
What would you say that's a city building game out?
It's got the word city in it.
City... I don't
Blue
know.
Moon City.
Oh, no, die! That was the one I crossed off my list. It was in my top 20 type thing.
Blue Moon City's my number one. I was always a huge, huge fan of Blue Moon, called Blue Moon Legends now. And Blue Moon City came out, and it was a radically different game, ultimately, but it borrowed a lot of concepts from Blue Moon, mainly the powers of the different peoples in the city of Blue Moon. And you are building up the city after it was destroyed. And so all the tiles in this grid start face down, and you spend cards to put out your cubes, and once the buildings are filled, then you flip them over, they give you some stuff, and on the other side of the sketch side is a gorgeously done, finished, beautiful building. And so you are going around building the city. It's very much a city building game with this pseudo cooperation / being opportunistic sort of thing, where someone is almost done with a building and then you jump in there and have one little bit and you get something out of it. But you put in minimal effort. And it's just a really solid game. Sadly out of print, apparently very expensive, but somebody should bring this back because it is a gorgeous, solid, quick, richly tactical game that I think is one of Reiner Knizia's best games.
I agree.
Number one, Blue Moon City.
All right, my number one is a game in which building your city the best is usually your most viable course to victory. But in order to build your city well, you also have to engage the people in the court of the king and the queen with your workers. And Kingsburg.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, Sam's putting it on his list.
Yes, exactly. So Kingsburg is definitely my favorite city building game. It has, mainly because it's not just a city building game. That is, I guess, a core mechanic, but there is a lot of other things going on.
I'd say it's at least half the game.
Yeah, there's other things going on, though, that make it feel you're definitely building your city, but it doesn't feel like that's all you're doing. It feels like you're doing much more. You're preparing your city for defending against the onslaught of the bad guys and all this other kind of stuff. You're interacting with people in the court of the king and queen, and it just feels much better than just a city building game. So, had to make my list. Definitely my favorite city building game, Kingsburg, my number one.
All right, well, there we go. Those are our top 10 city building games. This is certainly, like I said at the beginning, I was really surprised how many of these there was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first mentioned the topic, I was like, oh, there's Suburbia. And then when I looked it up, I was like, oh, there's actually a lot of games in this genre. But I still think this genre could be expanded and added more. As you know, there's a lot of different styles. I'm a big fan of any tycoon-style game. I mean, it doesn't have to be a city. Build your best a museum, build anything.
I guess to me it just feels like all the ones that are very much a city building game tend to be boring, economic, Euros with too much fiddly stuff going on.
Yeah.
They all seem to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to build this park next to this industry. Boo! You want to build the park over here? Yay! Here's $20. Now you got to spend 16 of it to do this. It's like, oh no, it's just not my style, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they all seem to kind of do that.
Well, tell us what your top ones are in the comments. We'd love to hear what your favorite city building games are. Hey, we're glad to be back doing top 10s. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Ziger. See you, everybody.
Sam Healy, see you on the flip side.